as you may already know, big news from Yamaha earlier on this year, because they have told us that they're going to be bringing this motorcycle, the Yamaha R3, the fully fed sub 500 sports motorcycle, back to India after what feels like an eternity, because the older model was taken off, I think, in 2020. And now 2024 will see the return of this lovely motorcycle back on Indian shores. Now this motorcycle, the R3, has undergone a fair bit of change in the form of 37mm upside down fork up front. It has an all new face, all new digital display, and it pretty much retains the same core mentality and the ideology in terms of engine, performance, and that entire amazing package that we came to love in the motorcycle before. But it gets better, because Yamaha are also bringing another variation of this motorcycle to India, and that is this, the MT-03. Now, of course, as you may already know, both these motorcycles share pretty much the same underpinnings in terms of suspension, chassis, engine power and everything, gearbox as well. But then again, this marks the first time that Yamaha are going to be introducing a parallel twin naked motorcycle in the country. So big news there, and we are out here in Thailand to find out what both these motorcycles have to offer. Now both the R3 and the MT-03 are styled as you would expect on the aggressive side of things, just like the bigger displacement capacity counterparts sold around the world. Each of the designs are quite familiar to us because, well, we've already laid our eyes on the latest YZF-R3 and the MT-15 models out here in India. Now these two are obviously bigger in dimensions, but there's not a lot to visually set the high displacement models apart. Maybe some new color schemes would have helped identify them better. The R3 gets a split LED headlamp unit up front, while the MT-03 gets a single projector lamp. Now both motorcycles share the same DOHC liquid-cooled engine, the diamond frame chassis and suspension, and have pretty much identical spec sheets, apart from the overall width due to difference in handlebars, and the weight, of course, due to a fairing up front and the lack of it. In terms of hardware, both these motorcycles are suspended on a bigger non-adjustable 37mm upside down fork up front and a preload adjustable monoshock at the rear. Now both these 300cc Yamaha models get the same rather simplistic LCD screen, so there's no lively TFT screen and no Bluetooth connectivity option as well, so that's a bit of a downer. And the odd bit is that both miss out on traction control, a feature that is available on both the smaller displacement R15 and MT-15 models out here currently. These two do get dual channel ABS though. There's a slipper clutch on both bikes as well, which helps keep the lever light on the go and very stable while downshifting aggressively. But I would have fancied having a quick shifter on there as well, given the dynamic character of both these motorcycles. The best part about this motorcycle has to be that engine that is encompassed in its diamond frame. Now this is the same 321cc parallel twin liquid cooled engine that we have witnessed before, but of course now it is BS6 compliant. Still packs a good wallop, 42 PS of max power and around 29.5 Nm of max torque. All the power up in the power band, low down not so much so, but once you actually get there and you give it the beans, man, this thing really goes. You could easily be cruising at 80 kmph with the engine in limbo in 6th gear. And if you fancy jumping ahead of traffic in a hurry at this point, well, you'll definitely have to downshift. Otherwise, you'll have to be a little more calculative of your overtaking maneuvers. Even at around 100 kmph, which comes up at about 6,200 rpm, it feels like the engine is just getting started and waiting for you to give it the nod. 120 at 7,000 rpm, 130 kmph at 8,000 rpm, and there's way more to go beyond that point because this bike just loves to grind all the way to its red line around 11,000 rpm, and it doesn't feel out of place at all once you get there. It's just relentless thrills high up the power band. The brakes bleed speed brilliantly, and along with the chassis, which takes speed in its stride, well, it gives you great feedback at all times. Just that the R3 felt a lot better while riding aggressively because you're a lot more dynamically compact and tucked into the motorcycle than you are on the MT-03. It's not that the MT-03 won't be able to keep up with the R3, it's just that you'll have to dial in a little more effort to do so. It's a highly tractable engine as well, this, allowing you to pull away from about 40 kmph in 6th without having to use the clutch lever and without the engine knocking, which is brilliant. Now the MT-03, well, it does weigh 2 kgs lighter than the R3, but then again, out on the road you really don't feel it. But it still has that lovely agility and that power, that lovely engine. well, it still comes together as a really nice package out on the road, because it is, as you would expect, a very lively and agile machine. When it comes to the R3 in terms of riding posture, well, yep, see, swinging your leg over the motorcycle, not a real task. And of course, this being a performance motorcycle, it will have some weight, your upper body weight on your palms, but it's not too aggressive. It won't have you in that overly committed pose, let's say. And of course, your feet are nicely tucked here. Won't feel out of place on track or on long tours down the highway. The difference between this motorcycle and the MT-03, of course, is the tank. Now, you don't have those huge tank shrouds, so you do get a better grip of the tank. You do sit a lot closer to the tank. Your legs are a lot closer, a lot more inward. Alright, now getting astride the MT-03, well, as you can see, no real task there. Just like the R3, because, well, the seat height, the ground clearance, everything is identical to the R3. I think the seat height is around 780 mm if I'm not mistaken. But then again, the big changes out here have to be the handlebar, which is completely different to the unit which is on the R3. And of course, this big tank shroud, as you can see, is the same capacity reservoir, but it does have a broader muscular feel to it. And of course, your legs will be split more apart. The taller you are, the more you're going to feel the brunt of it. But then again, the good thing about this motorcycle is the fact that it will have you seated a lot more upright, a lot more comfortable with no weight on your palms. But the only downside to this is with the stiff suspension, you will feel the brunt of bumps on your back. Alright, now to sum things up out here, let's begin with the R3. Now, still in this day and age, 4 years after it was taken off the charts, well, still a highly impressive and capable machine, because, well, it packs a real wallop in terms of performance, and the ride dynamics and handling, well, just top draw in my books, because for a performance motorcycle of this caliber, in this displacement category, it really works. It really comes together supremely well. Yes, of course, it is lacking in terms of certain features. I would have loved for it to have at least a bi-directional quick shifter on there. But then again, we'll save that for a later date. Maybe Yamaha hopefully will include it at a later stage in this motorcycle's life. Now, coming to the MT-03, yes, just like the R3 in terms of performance and handling, because it pretty much has the same underpinnings as the R3. Of course, different handlebars, slightly wider tank, so it will have a different riding posture, which you will have to figure out, because once you ride the R3, it all comes together in terms of performance. That's what a proper performance motorcycle, a 300cc performance motorcycle feels like. And now when you have a naked motorcycle of the same caliber, well, it feels like a mismatch, but it doesn't really feel out of place, to be honest. Lovely engine, right? All the power lies in the top end of the power band, just like the R3. Mid-range is so-so. Bottom end is kind of dead, to be honest. But then again, very comfortable, a lot more upright, the seating posture. And if you're not so much into like aggressive riding styles, you will fancy this one over the R3. So the R3 is coming back to India after a 4-year hiatus, and this time it's bringing the MT-03 along with it. And if you go to see what all has changed with the machine in its time of absence, well, it's pretty much nothing besides the display, the headlights and the upside down fork. So in a way, it still is an old motorcycle which hasn't evolved tremendously. But the strange part is that the engine, the chassis, the suspension, well, it still holds up really well in the company of today. Just that I wish that it came with a lot more features, and hopefully Yamaha will start manufacturing these motorcycles out here soon, which will bring down the cost of buying either of them. Both these bikes are going to make their way to India via Indonesia directly as CBU units. So don't expect the price tag to go under the 4 lakh margin for either of these motorcycles. Now, given that price, cost-conscious India, I know you're going to be thinking, oh yeah, my bike costs more than 4 lakhs, and it has to have a certain amount of features, which both these motorcycles appear to be lacking. So why would you really buy them? Well, for that price, both these motorcycles stay true to the Yamaha ethos, which is performance. And in that aspect, they deliver in spades. And purists are going to really fancy either of these bikes.